we're good. All right. So good morning, everybody. Welcome to the May 2017 Hennepin County SharePoint User Group. Hope everybody's doing well and you haven't suffered too much from the spring storms that we've been going through for the last couple of days. I have a lot of leaves all over my yard. And there were some branches in the driveway this morning. But other than that, and my husband's Jeep got dinged with hail yesterday. So, you know, but that's why you have car insurance. So anyways, so for those of you who don't know me, my name is Edith Young, and I've been at the county about 3.5 years now. I've had a few positions, and I want to welcome you both online and here in the room for coming and supporting SharePoint, the SharePoint User Group. It's been in existence since May of 2014, so it's starting its 4th season this year. So that's kind of cool. What I'd like to do is just go around the room and have you all introduce yourselves, and then please tell us what area you work in and how long you've been at the county, and one way you use SharePoint. So let me know if you don't remember those things, and I'll remind you. So let's start over here.
Run Converse, Transportation and Construction, 24 years. And we use it for document tracking to get some of the forms with the guys in the room.
Very good.
I'm Casey Witness. I've been here 3 months now. Let's check my clock. Yeah, I think it's 3. 3 months now with Hennepin County, and I'm one of the IT technical trainers. I use SharePoint to help educate others about our training classes and the information that we offer and that kind of stuff.
Oh, right there.
Mike Larson, I'm with Software Intake, and I'm the site owner for the UTAP site, which is the User Technology Advisory Committee. So all the information we provide through that on there. We're also doing hosting user acceptance testing records where we can go out when we have to do testing of software and report the results on that site, and that filters feeds back into our in-house system.
Nice. Oh, I like to hear that. That's cool.
I'm Leila Type. I work with Safety IT, and we don't really have our own SharePoint site yet, so mostly I'm using other sites, and I came with my own question today. Awesome. Because there's a DevOps community site, and I tried to sign up for alerts, and it doesn't have my email address anywhere, and I have no idea where to set that.
Well, I might have somebody in the room who could help you with that.
And I've been with the county for a long time. But for the last month or so, I've been helping out with the county's response to measles. You may have heard of measles in the county. And the team working with measles is using SharePoint as one place to get all the information together. Find the form.
Nice, nice. Great.
Hi, my name is Mike Vega. City of Minneapolis, down the way. It is nice enough to invite me so we can share what we're doing with SharePoint. At the city, we use SharePoint for our hopefully soon our intranet. We're going to start that project, but we use it for different collaboration sites, and it's organically grown, and we're all Office.
I'm Julie Wallace, so we're going to help you find state record student, and I've been here for 22 years. We use SharePoint for our policy manual, and then also for documents that we use for the process manual.
Nice.
Information that other people will use when we have a process that we don't do very often. It's helpful to have it documented.
Yeah.
80% of the time.
Good job. Good job.
I'm Ken Brown, here almost 2 years, and I use SharePoint in very exciting ways.
Thank you, Ken.
I'm the speaker, operations BIO. I support our office, HR, labor relations, governmental relations, and compliance and investigation services. And I wouldn't be able to do the amount of work I did do now without SharePoint, or at least something like it. My customers use it for all sorts of tracking requests, providing information, getting information, dealing with their own stuff. It's lots of interesting things, some boring things that they're using.
Nice, very good. Excuse me, for those online, I'm just going to announce your name and the area that you work in. So we've got Barbara Kramer, and she's an IT project manager in Human Services, Public Health. We have Becky Winehandle. She's an IT specialist, senior for IT. Let's see here. We have CK. He's a consultant from Genesis Technologies, and he works with the servers on Tanya Friday's group, so the farm admin folks. And Cheryl Granning is in DOCCR. She's an office specialist principal. We have Dami. I'm not going to try and say your last name because I'm sure I wouldn't do it any favors. And you are in the Office of Budget and Finance and as an IT specialist principal. We have Daryl Knighton online with us, also an office specialist. 3, Human Services, Public Health. Deb Butler. Deb is Communications Specialist Principal, and she works for the County Admin's Office. Jennifer Westerman, she's a planning analyst for HSPH. Jesse Ebert is an admin assistant senior for Resident Real Estate Services. Jody Wald is one of our guests. She works for Anoka County, and from what I understand, you're still the only SharePoint person at Anoka County, right, Jody? You can just type yes or no into the window down there. But she's their farm admin. She does their training. She does pretty much everything. So, only person here, yep. And then, of course, Linda Busdeker is also in the room with us, but she likes to help me monitor when questions are coming in. So, thanks for that, Linda. We also have Lisa Nakala. She's Office Specialist Principal with HSPHD. Oh my goodness. Ludmilla, I'm going to guess maybe is your name. She's an admin manager for Facility Services. So I apologize if I slaughtered your name. Mandy Winky from Facility Services as well, admin assistant. And then Melanie Kramer. She's one of our enterprise site collection administrators in information technology as an IT business analyst too. So welcome everybody. I'm just going to shrink this down here. The next thing that I want to do is make an announcement and make an introduction. So effective May 8th, I took a new role over in the Public Defender's Office as an IT supervisor. So I will be handing off the Hennepin County SharePoint user group leadership to the gentleman who's in the back row. And for those of you online, it's Ken Brown. So as Ken mentioned earlier, he is in enterprise development and he is a SharePoint developer. So you're being handed off to good hands. He knows his SharePoint stuff, and he can also talk to you in layman's terms. So don't worry, you're not gonna, this group isn't gonna go all technical on you and lose you in the weeds and all that kind of stuff. It'll be, he'll work tightly with Fred Bear for the site owners meeting that does deeper dives. He'll probably continue to work with Fred on the SCA stuff to a certain extent. I don't know, I'm just kind of pulling stuff out of my hat there, but is a developer. Yeah. Oh, no, is a developer. And so I just have to tell everybody who's been consistently coming to these meetings, I'm going to try not to burst into tears because I'm a little emotional today, that I appreciate your attendance and your support for the last 4 years. So thank you very, very much. It was nice to see this group grow and continue to sustain. And I know we'll continue to flourish. Thank you. Thank you very much. So on that note, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the SharePoint Site Owner Reference Guide and Appendix. So let me go over here to Internet Explorer. Maybe just do this. And so back in April, there was a small project team under Kathy Frazier's group. Kathy Frazier is the technical product owner for the SharePoint platform here at the county. And we pulled together a small team of people to come up with in-house site owner training. We were noticing that we had some gaps, that people were not really sure on what all of the capabilities, the features, the functionalities that were available to them as site owners that they had access to. And so this project team decided to pull together a reference guide, some labs, and an additional appendix that supports that. And where that is located for you to utilize at any moment in time as a site owner is out here on the SharePoint Center of Excellence. So I've got everything open in separate tabs. So to get to the guide and the appendix, you would click on Training and Resources. So I'm going to go ahead and go to that page here. And then you would scroll down on the Training and Resources page. And you would then click on the SharePoint Knowledge Base. And once you click on that, then it will take you here to this tab, if I can get it to open, which is the Center of Excellence Knowledge Base. Then inside the knowledge base is a specific area for in-house training reference guides. You can see there's a contributor reference guide out here, and then there's the site owner reference guide. When you click on the site owner reference guide, it will take you to an online wiki library that looks like this. Additionally, if you ever want to refer to it in a PDF version, it is out here, and there's links to the reference guide in a PDF version and then the appendix in the PDF version as well. Let me ask this question. Are any of you signed up for the June session for site owner training? All right. Yep. Yeah, that is one of the issues. Let me just look online here. Is anybody saying anything about that? Okay, thanks, Linda. So, yeah, we had no idea that there was going to be such a demand. And what we can do is approximately have up to 15 at that point. Then it becomes a little bit unruly to try and get everybody, because it is such an interactive kind of class. And so we thought, well, we'll offer 4 classes this year. Well, the April sold out, so to speak, the June, the July, and then we skipped August and moved right into September, I believe. Or maybe no, we skipped August and September and did another class in October. The class is 2 1/2 days for approximately 4 to 4.5 hours each day. And I'll be talking about what it goes over here in just a little bit, and I'll show you what it looks like. But it's held here in the SC Squared room, and the class is available out on Apex. So when you go out to Apex to your learning section, what you do is you search for SharePoint, and these classes will come back. On the note of the classes and the demand for the classes filling up, I know that there has been a request put in to maybe do some kind of train the trainer type of effort for individuals who would be interested in training it out within their lines of business. So that is food for thought. If you know of somebody in your line of business, or you have trainers in your line of business that would be interested in doing that, please have them get in contact with Kathy Frazier, because Kathy will go ahead and make sure that they put something together in reference to a train the trainer type session. I'm sorry, what do you mean by that question? So those people. That is correct. You cannot give anyone site owner access until they've either gone through the Science Museum training, which is still available. We aren't saying you can't go to that, but the Hennepin County in-house training is going to be all about our environment. So you're going to see how we use it here and working within our development environment, because that's where the training is done out of and those types of things. So correct, once you have gone through the class, passed the assessment, if you are not already a site owner, the assessment is only going to be for those folks who have not taken any kind of site owner training previous. If they just come to it as a refresher for the 2 1/2 days, then it's just that. It's a refresher for them. So.
When you started out with training the trainers,
Yeah.
if the people pass the assessment test, they would just hit that people who get signed up.
Correct. Yep. Exactly. Let me just check here. All right. I don't know what nope means, Jesse. Oh, got it. All right. Very good. All right. We'll keep on trucking. So what I'm going to do here is go ahead and just kind of do a walkthrough of the site owner structural fundamentals. And then I probably won't walk us through the site owner lab exercises because those are very self-explanatory. There's steps that go one by one, so you'll be able to go out here and look at that and look for the topic if you're looking for step-by-step instructions on how to do things. But there are 24 labs in total. So when you come to the 2 1/2 day sessions, we mix it up so that you're getting a little bit of fundamentals, but you're also getting to participate during labs so you don't fall asleep and drool on the table. So it's important. We want to keep you engaged. So let me just go ahead and right click and open in a new tab. So the first page talks about the SharePoint terms. And you can see there's a table of contents over here. So if you want to skip down on the page to a specific term, so if you really wanted to know what's the definition of a library, it'll take you right to where the library is. So Jesse Robbins is the individual who built out this fabulous online reference guide for us. So please use it. It's the place where you will have the most latest and greatest information as a site owner. So you can just see that we have several terms out here that are frequently used within the Hennepin County environment. So we have site collection and what is a site and what does that top level site option mean. And you can see it goes on and on and on, and it talks about web parts and apps and metadata and content types. So there's some really good term information out here so everybody is kind of speaking the same language as users of the SharePoint platform across the county. Close that one. And we talk a little bit about browser compatibility. So we always recommend that you use Internet Explorer 11 with SharePoint A because it's Microsoft supported and SharePoint is a Microsoft product. Additionally, for those of us who have started to receive our Windows 10 machines, Microsoft Edge is also supported if you're using that as a browser. So SharePoint should work just fine within that browser type. Safari, which is for the Apple people of the world, it should also work just fine and is supported. The two that are not supported internally, and when I say internally, I'm talking about our help desk. So if you are using Google Chrome or Mozilla Firefox and you're having problems with something in SharePoint, please don't call the help desk because they're going to say, well, yes, we have those browsers available to you in the software catalog, but they are not recommended and we do not support or troubleshoot any issues. So, yes, Leela.
I have a question on Microsoft Edge.
Yeah.
For opening OneNote notebook on SharePoint,
Yep.
I got an error that said they couldn't run and looked like a 32-bit, 64-bit
Kind of issue.
So
Okay.
if we do run into issues on something that's supported internally,
Yep.
we just report it to the help desk?
You do. Call your help desk or reach out to your SCA first, so your site collection administrators, see if they're aware of the problem. And in some cases, you're going to have site collection administrators that live right inside your lines of businesses, and for others, you're relying on the support of the individuals who are at the enterprise site collection level. Yes?
You need to repeat questions because apparently the mic's not picking it all up.
No, the mics won't. I'm sorry. So when I talk, it's about my microphone here that's built into my machine. So I will repeat that question. So Leela's question was, she was running into a problem using Microsoft Edge and opening a OneNote notebook from a SharePoint site. And what she thinks it may be is something to do with the system being a 32-bit or a 64-bit. Now, if you are experiencing that and you're using Microsoft Edge, either please talk to your site collection administrator and or open a ticket with the not the SharePoint, but the help desk here at the county. Okay, I had two hands at one time, so I'm gonna go. Okay, so Ken.
I just want to, if you are using that browser handles opening files that Internet Explorer has in the past. So if you're going to be trying to open a file in the browser, always default to using Internet Explorer. They can handle it. Edge does not.
It's not a file though, it's a HTTP notebook that's attached to.
It's a site notebook, yeah.
As
Yeah.
an SCA, any of my users come into that, IE11 has been supported for a long time and there tend to be less issues. All various groups have lots going on. If there is another supporting tool that works properly as an SCA, I am going to be guiding my users and owners, et cetera, toward using the thing that we know works better.
And which is the thing that works better is Internet Explorer 11. So yeah, exactly. Hence why we've got recommended browser in bold in parentheses underneath. Yeah. Yeah. Oh. I don't know. Yeah, so Sitecore is its own animal. So I don't know. Yeah. 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 Right, exactly. So basically what was just said in the room is Sitecore, which is our outer-facing website for hennepin.us, is compatible with Chrome and works just fine with Chrome. And, you know, it's just funny that we don't have that same support for the SharePoint platform, but there's other things that have to be done internally with the servers and all of the other stuff that makes SharePoint run from a SQL Server database instance. So just kind of keep that food for thought. But Rhonda, thank you very much for bringing that to the table. I appreciate it. All right. So good discussion around browser compatibility. All right. Oh, shucks. Now I got myself way out of where I wanted to go. Okay. I have to figure out how to make this bigger. Holy cow. That is so small. My eyes, I'm like going to be blind by the end of the session here. Let's see. All right. So roles and responsibilities, very important. And yet, no, Linda, yeah, go ahead. Got another question. Okay.
Butler is asking, saying quickly browsing the training. I think this is a topic on sharing OneNote and SharePoint, if not with the admin. I would recommend that potentially at the top of this, you guys have a way for people to give recommendations on additional topics.
That's excellent. Also, we have another communication vehicle, which I was going to talk to at the end. But if you have suggestions or feedback regarding the site owner reference guide and appendix or the contributor guide that is out there, please send an email to sp.learning@hennepin.us. That will go to the proper teams, and then you don't have to worry about me trying to get your requests to where they need to go and a timely update, since I'm not going to be in that group anymore. So, but thank you, Linda, for bringing that forward. I appreciate that. All right, let's go back over here. So roles and responsibilities. As we know, those are very, very important. So we're going to just open up the roles and responsibilities here. And it provides you with a general overview of both what the site owner role is and the responsibilities, but then it also points you to the governance role and general responsibilities, which is the SharePoint governance plan. So you can see here a reference is made on page 31, and this little link here will also additionally take you to more information on that. Other roles, you can also refer to the SharePoint governance plan beginning on page 17. And that's also going to be roles that will involve or give you information about your site collection administrator and what the site owner and what their multifaceted roles and key responsibilities include. So this is always a good place to refer to for that. Click back here. It's not going to work the way I want it to, I guess. All right, permissions for site owners. So what can you do as a permission, or what can you as a site owner give permission to? Well, you are out of box automatically set to have the manage permission level. This is a limited full control type of level, and you can refer to the SPCOE Wiki knowledge base for the SharePoint permission groups and functionalities, which we'll get to as we go through this manual online. The granting levels, as a site owner, you will be able to always add people to the contributor, which is add, edit, delete, and to the visitor, which is read permission groups that are created when a new SharePoint site is spun up for your line of business. Yes, Linda. Except in HC Connect. Thank you very much. So if you have a site out on HC Connect, you will need to reach out to the Enterprise SharePoint Site Collection Administrators to have them help with any kind of changes in those groups, because you will only be given enough permission to be able to update the content on your HC Connect site as a site owner. You won't be able to give additional people ability to add content out there. So thank you, Melanie. All right. So I'm going to go back here to the reference guide. I'm going to start using the link that I'm supposed to. All right. So then we start and we talk about site types, structure, and environments. So as you know, SharePoint has there are 4 environments that are used on a regular basis here. We have HC Connect, which is our place for all of the employees to go. So it's our intranet and portal. We have the department collaboration sites, which most of you probably have for your lines of business. We have team sites, and then we also have community sites. Additionally, the 4 Hennepin County SharePoint environments are PE, which is an environment used to test work that hasn't been put into production yet. A lot of proof of concept type projects are started out there. We have the development environment, and that's used to test new features and functionality prior to putting it in a staging or production. And then we have the stage environment. That's where it's tested before it's implemented in development prior to putting it into a live production environment. And then we have prod, where we handle our day-to-day work. So those are always good to know. Moving on, navigating a SharePoint site. Just show of hands in the room. Do you still struggle some with navigating and getting around in your SharePoint sites? Or is that becoming pretty second nature to you now? Oh, Linda.
I have issues because it's not always where is what SharePoint navigation.
Yeah.
How somebody built their navigation. That's a big thing.
The consistency thing. Yep, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, there is a little bit of a, every line of business has their way of doing things. But this little pictorial here will just kind of give you an idea of what those different areas are. And you can see that, you know, we refer to this as the site logo. Your global navigation is where you can put links that will take you to any site in any site collection. These are your current navigation, which is basically contained to links that are within your current site. You have the site contents link, which lives in here under the settings menu gear. And then we have the focus on content option. And I know a lot of people haven't experienced that much, so I always like to do a quick little demo of what focus on content does, because it will have a major effect on how you see things. So if you actually click on the focus on content option, you notice how my quick launch bar and my top link navigation disappeared. So I always have a little story. I got a panic phone call from one of my friendly users who was like, Edith, I don't know what I did, but all my navigation disappeared. And of course I was like, well, share your site with me and let me take a look. And so she shared her site, and I'm like, I said, well, give me control for a second, because sometimes I can drive a little easier than I can talk people through it. So I took over control of her site through a Skype session, and I was like, oh, I see the problem. I said, it's this focus on content button. You've accidentally clicked on that. So when you click back again to take it off of focus on content, notice how now all of the information that seemed to disappear comes back. So basically what that's doing is taking the content that's on that page for you and really making it a focal point. So if you ever click on it, or that your page and that kind of stuff disappears, it's probably your focus on content button. So just some food for thought. All right, the SharePoint recycle bin. How many of you have accidentally deleted something and then you forget that you have the SharePoint recycle bin and you can go and save it from there as a site owner? I still do it, and I've been using SharePoint for 10 years almost. So, so the recycle bin is set for your site to 30 days by default, and it's only configurable by the SharePoint server administrators here. What happens is after 30 days, there's a secondary recycle bin, which lives at what is called the root of the site collection. This captures items that are deleted from that first stage recycle bin. And only site collection administrators can view items in that second stage recycle bin because of where it is located. So if it has disappeared and it's been longer than 30 days, you'll want to follow up with your SCA to see if they can find it in that larger secondary site collection, or excuse me, stage recycle bin. So that is a little bit on the SharePoint recycle bin. All right. So then we start getting in working with site settings. So I know that there is a lot of stuff behind the scenes of a site that folks don't even know exist. And so what we've done here in this image is shown you what we cover in the site owner training when it comes to the site settings and what we don't. So anything that has a red X next to it, or has an X next to it if there's issues with color at all, those are items we won't even cover in a site owner training. They'll probably have special sessions that are spun up to talk about those in a more advanced way, just because, you know, talking about master pages, as Ken knows, well, it gets hairy. And you really have to have a good understanding of what master pages do for a SharePoint site. You know, things like that. The design manager option is not something that we talk about. I don't even remember what design manager does anymore. RSS, translation status. The term store management is actually one that we try to stay away from too, because That is going to start diving into that metadata search project that is currently underway here at the county. It is being led by Fred Bear and Nancy Suhu, and they're reaching out to all the different lines of businesses and working with those lines of businesses to get the content tagged appropriately with metadata so that within your line of business, or if somebody has access to your department site from outside of your line of business, they can find your content much easier. So we're kind of backtracking a little bit, but once we get that in place, it'll be a lot more robust and people will be able to find your content a lot easier. And you'll also notice here that we've got a big box around further training needed where it's related to search. Search is its own animal. Search is very, very powerful. It started to be very powerful within the SharePoint 2013 platform, and I hear it's going to be even better once we move over to the SharePoint 2016 platform. So there are great things coming. So just stay tuned for that, and then also stay tuned for future workshops or training opportunities related to how to utilize search in SharePoint here at the county. All right. Moving on, we talk a little bit about permissions and security, which is something that can get very confusing. And so we go into quite a good explanation of exactly what it is, how it's done, what are the different levels of permissions, what are those security principles, and what's the difference between a SharePoint group and an Active Directory group, and how do you create SharePoint groups, and who can create SharePoint groups, and then what are default SharePoint groups. So you've heard me already talk about the manage, the visitors, the members, or except the manage is the owners permission level, the members, which is the contribute permission level, and then the visitors, which is the read permission level. Those are the ones that are basic, out of box, available to you right away when a new SharePoint site is created for you. This is just a picture of what that looks like and what type of permission level. So you can see the SO training members are the contribute, so on and so forth. We talk about how you manage users and groups, and how you can grant permissions to users and groups as well. There is an exercise that is related to this, and it's pretty nice to be able to go back, especially if you don't grant permissions very often. If it's something you might do once every couple months or something like that, because keeping your SharePoint permission groups up to date is important only for the factor of they can get very cluttered because it is a manual process to have to update those SharePoint groups. So might want to make it a best practice to go in there and clean it up every once in a while. Document the SharePoint groups, work with your site collection administrator to understand what groups exist within your site, that kind of thing. So that is on permissions and security. All right, modifying navigation. So modifying navigation is all about how you can go in and update global navigation, which is considered this top link navigation bar, the current navigation, which of course is your left side navigation. And then you start getting into something called structural navigation. So structural navigation is an option that only exists if your site has had SharePoint Server Publishing turned on. And we do talk about that within the guide a little bit more here. And then the other option is the metadata-driven navigation. And this is a link to a Microsoft Knowledge article because this isn't a practice that we've used here much at the county, but it is something that can be advantageous too if you're interested in taking, how do you want to say, more advantage of that to use within your SharePoint sites. So that is a little bit about modifying navigation. And we go down here to page types and content. So there's a lot of different types of pages. We have the wiki page, the web part page, a publishing page. There are 2 documents that exist out on the SharePoint Center of Excellence under the Governance Documents Library that are related to design uniformity. Those were just approved this past February or March, I can't remember exactly when, but they went through a process of a team of people last summer putting together some standards, and design uniformity was one of the SharePoint template standards that came out of that. And so it will kind of talk you through as a site owner, what are some of the standard things you need to have on your site so that everybody knows how to get around on your site. Here you have the working with web parts and app parts. That can sometimes be confusing to people. But there is a little bit of a difference between a web part and an app part, so it's good to understand that difference. And you can see here that we've broken out some definitions for you. And then additionally, these links here will also take you to different part of the appendix, which are out-of-box web parts part 1, out-of-box web parts part 2, part 3, and part 4. And that gives you even more detailed descriptions and examples of the out-of-box web parts and what to use those for. You have your app parts, and you start to talk about the different types of apps that are available. How do you manage a web part on a page, and then web part zones. So this is all stuff that you've probably heard or looked at or worked with as you become familiarized with the SharePoint environment here at the county. But sometimes you just need to have a little refresher, so you can come out there and get all caught up. List and library settings. So everybody knows that there is a difference between a library and a list, right? So a library stores documents and a list stores items. And sometimes people will create a list and want to put attachments inside a list when in the all reality, as Ken shakes his head vigorously in the background, you really want to have a document library that you've turned on what is a feature called a content type to have links to other documents or other types of outside information, you know, within the SharePoint environment. I saw your eyebrow go up. That's why I was like, you know what I'm talking about. And it allows you to put an actual link inside the document library. It's actually a fun little feature. So when you have the list, I would really, if you're going to have multiple attachments for one item, it's going to start to get kind of kludgy. And when I say kludgy, I just mean it's really hard to spin up reports or information, you know, to pull the data so you understand what's associated with that one item if there's multiple. So what I would recommend is if you have multiple documents that you need, you would have those stored in a library versus a list. So does that help you understand it a little bit more? Maybe kind of you want to talk afterwards?
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk afterwards. Yeah. Yes, that would be good. If I can give you, if you can show me an example, then I'll be able to kind of tell you if you're on the right path. There you go. Perfect. Thank you. So here we go, and we talk more about the definitions, the brief descriptions of what lives on the settings page. And then, so we do a picture of what that looks like under document settings here, and adding additional information to settings. Then we get into the site settings and site columns. And you'll notice here that that is all going to be covered at a very high level in the site owner training. And then there'll be opportunities to dive deeper into site columns and site content types down the road too. Because that in itself is just a lot of information, and the power of what a list does versus a library, or a library does versus a list, is something you really want to get to understand and know, so you're using the platform in its best fashion. All right. So views. How many times have you heard me talk about views at SharePoint User Group? What do I always say? Views are powerful. It's how you slice and dice your information so that you can meet the needs of just about any audience member on how you want to display your information. So we talk a little bit about views on lists and libraries, what those types of views are, what the basic views are, how columns and metadata are very important when it comes to building a view that will give you the proper data return that you're looking for, how you access views. So it's some pretty good stuff. And there's also a really good lab that's associated with this in the reference guide as well, under the lab section. So site consistency is very important. We talk a little bit here about defining site columns for lists and libraries, what are content types, and then defining those and understanding content types, considerations for different content types. And you always have in the SharePoint world, you hear a lot about the parent and the child. And so usually that's referring to the parent site with the child site, but they also do that with parent content types and child content types. I'm not going to try and explain it to you here because it would take me 2 hours. And we all got better things to do. So just a little bit of information on that. We don't dive very deep into that in the site owner training. And we do talk about using templates to promote consistency. So when we're talking about templates there, we're talking about library or list templates that include columns and fields and views. And then we're talking about site templates, which include lists and web part pages and custom pages and themes and quick launch customizations. So if you have, let's say you are a project management office and you continually need to spin up new project sites, if you create a project site template that has all of the attributes it needs, all you ever have to do when your site collection administrator goes in is they look for the project site template, they spin it up, and it comes up with all of the things that you need as a project manager or an individual who's on a project team to access. So it's just kind of handy. And you can see here that we refer back to see the list and library template section with working with lists and libraries too. So we'll go back up here and talk a little bit about checking in and checking out, version control, and content approval. So that's a really important piece to know. These are functions that work both within SharePoint lists and libraries. They work a little bit differently for each of those apps. Talks about how does versioning work with file checkout. What happens when you require checkout. This is only applicable to your libraries. And then your list or library permissions gives you a little bit of an idea of how those can be utilized inside a list or library. And then check in or discarding changes to files. We talk some about that. And then see who's got a file checked out. I know this is a hot topic because if you see the little green arrow that pops up over the icon of the document, it's really nice because if you hover over it, so in this screenshot she hovered over it, she was able to say, oh, this is the HC SPUG 2016 10th of August all about content types PowerPoint. And then you can see that it was checked out to Jesse Robbins. So it's a really quick and easy way to find out who might have your document checked out or who won the lottery and didn't come back to work the next day. All right. And then we go ahead and we talk a little bit about the SharePoint out-of-box workflows. I think I did the last session of the Hennepin County SharePoint user group was walking through the approval workflow and what a SharePoint workflow is. So we do talk about the different types, the approval, the collect feedback, the collect signatures, which is not a standard or county approved way of collecting signatures if you're working on documentation that requires a a signature capture. So just keep that in mind. I mean, if you're working internally in a small project team and you're trying to get sign off on documentation or things like that, this out of box SharePoint workflow is a good option for you. There's something also called a 3-state workflow and then a publishing approval workflow as well. So this page will just kind of walk you through all of that. There's also an exercise that is related to that as well. And then there is just the future help section. So here you can see that if you're looking for help after you've taken the site owner training, your first point of contact is your SCA. And then you can also utilize the SharePoint Center of Excellence. And then also there are the weekly, or are they bi-weekly, Ken? Are they? No, they're weekly SharePoint Open Lab, right? And they're on Thursdays, and I think they're in here from 1:30 to 3, or 1 to 2:30, somewhere in that time frame. Yeah. So it's a good place to pop in if you're struggling with something and you can't get a hold of your site collection administrator, or you can't find the answer on the SharePoint Center of Excellence. Pop into the lab down here, and they'll be happy to help you. I just also want to point out, so those exercises that I talked about as we were kind of walking through the fundamentals are all located over here. And then there's a really nice appendix that talks a little bit more about your difference between a document library ribbon and a list ribbon and a calendar ribbon. And Jessie did really nice, I'll just show you what it looks like here. She did really nice screenshots so you can see what she's talking about when she's breaking down that ribbon and what the options are and what they can do for you for that specific ribbon type. So she did a really great job with the screenshots. They're very, very helpful. So that about covers everything that I wanted to make sure I addressed today. Let me go back to the agenda here. Once again, I'd like to remind everybody that if you have suggestions or feedback, please send an email to sp.learning@hennepin.us with your feedback or questions for the SharePoint Site Owner Guide and Appendix. And I'd like to open it up right now for any questions or just discussion. Does anybody have any burning topics that they'd like to talk about today? Or would you like 35 minutes back in your schedule? Leela, yes, I would like 35 minutes. Yeah. Okay.
We're expecting from big access database SharePoint.
Okay.
But it's information that every time we import it, it's basically new.
Yep.
So we want to refresh that list from scratch, basically.
Okay, so I pointed at Ken because that's actually a really good question for him. What I'm going to do is repeat the question here online. So there's a project that's being worked on where they want to be able to pull data from an Access database into a SharePoint list and have it be real-time updates so that the two are talking back and forth to each other. Okay. Okay, so they're looking to refresh it on a weekly basis. Okay. Yep. Sure. Okay. Sure. So he's looking at to see if this is the best method to do it. And before you, are you going to reply to this, Ken? By any chance? Can you reply to this? Can you come up here so that people online can hear you? Because they can't hear you in the back. So don't start to talk yet. Hey, this is your gig now, man. Yeah. So if you
Sure. So if I understand, you have being pulled into the Access database. You have the list pulled into the Access database. You have queries that are updating the list,
and it's taken a few minutes to run.
Yeah.
Yep. To get the information from the how you're pulling it in and getting it into SharePoint, I think you are doing it right. The developer in me says, well, you know, we could probably do some REST calls and a bunch of other fancy stuff. But I think for what you're doing, it sounds like you're on the right path there.
Okay.
That connection with Access databases when you're pulling it in and moving it with queries and everything is really helpful, and
Yeah,
it's
like,
a good way to do
just
it.
doing a delete query to query the list.
Yep.
That's the part that takes about 10 minutes.
Mhm.
And then the update query puts in the new information.
About the only other thing I could think of is, when are you executing this?
What time of day?
Yeah, we're trying to do it as close to offline as.
Okay.
You know,
I mean, like,
beginning of the day
are you guys always running that update, say Monday mornings, or prepping,
we're
or?
not to that point yet.
Okay.
We do probably like Monday morning or.
Okay, so from a process perspective, something you could do or move to that would help out overall is using a retention schedule to wipe that list every week. Say that those run Friday afternoons, I believe, or Friday evenings.
Yeah.
So set up a retention schedule just to nuke the data in the list, so it's always a fresh list come Monday morning. Run your stuff Monday morning and just update the data.
Oh,
Might speed it up a little bit.
Somebody looks for it over the weekend.
Assuming you don't need it on the weekend.
Yes.
If you need the data on the weekend, then that doesn't work. But if you can nuke it Friday night to prep for the next week.
What was the term you used?
The retention schedule?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's set on the server. It's just it's another one of those out of the box workflow items that you can do. Usually it's to say, oh, this document's 6 months old, and it needs to be reviewed, or we can delete it, stuff like that. But in your case, you could probably set it up just to say, all right, everything, if it's this day, delete it.
Yeah. It's just our update to run closely after that.
Mm-hmm.
Are you saying that if retention schedules are applied, they're only handled on Friday night evening? I've not dealt a lot with it. So even if he said something like, try to expire it on Monday morning, if that's possible, at 2 a.m., he can't do that. It won't pick it up till the next Friday.
That's my understanding of how the farm is set up. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know
Really good with document libraries.
Yeah.
So your documentation doesn't go stale.
It does. Any other questions? Quiet group. How are you?
I'm giving an update based on this,
Okay.
what I said.
Awesome. Thank you. Well,
I have a question for y'all.
awesome. Because I'm going to turn it over to Ed now to wrap up for us.
So when we were going through the
Here, let me drink this.
oh, not even up there. No, when we were on that page of talking about site permissions and everything, right? One thing I noticed that wasn't listed on there, and I'm kind of curious to see who does it. How many of you are managing your default groups manually right now? As in, if somebody new comes into your group and needs to be able to get access to your site, you have to go in and give them access to your site.
Not necessarily to the site, but we have an intake form that
Okay.
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 And if a new person needs access to fill that out and save it, we have to add them to that group.
Okay.
I use AD groups. I do manual ads. I typically don't use the put in a request, but I do in some cases because you can allow somebody to ask for access. So I have that set up in some cases, but in my opinion, you've got to watch also to make sure it isn't a person who might have the audacity to go take a supervisor position in some other area, because it can be then forgotten about things. Why are you asking?
Actually, you brought up my second question I was going to ask, is how many people are using or nesting Active Directory groups inside of their default groups, so that when somebody's added to their team's Active Directory group, they're automatically given the right level of permissions.
However, I've also seen some esoteric issues with that, where some stuff doesn't work quite right if you're nested in a group.
Absolutely.
And that could be because you're it's just, I don't want to say, a SharePoint permission group.
Mhm.
It's not going to do all of these things.
Is that all listed in the site owners list, in the site owners reference? And are you going to potentially do the same type of thing for SDAs?
I think that there will be, yes, a deeper dive on that when they come out with, yeah, when they come out with,
Active Directory groups.
Yeah. Ken's just reading this for you guys online, don't worry, we're still here.
Okay, I even signed when I used the SharePoint AD group where we got explicitly set up as SharePoint.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so what I want to call it is it's kind of hidden in this block of text, but they do have the words here. A best practice is to combine the Active Directory and the security groups. So I wanted to find out how many people were doing that now and pointing it out since it is kind of hidden in here and not even listed down below in the best practice section.
Yeah.
So
No, thank you
that
for
caught my
doing that.
attention earlier.
Yeah, so you should send an email to SP.Learning
Okay.
at hennepin.us.
Or I'll just go back to my desk and yell at Fred.
You can do that.
Where I said it was necessary, Phil, I love doing what you're talking about
Mhm.
anyway, and it was only in weird things that I saw in shooting that otherwise it would be insane to sit there and manually do it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Manually taking care of your permission groups. Become a chore in itself.
Especially when people leave the group.
Oh, yeah.
They don't bother to tell you they're leaving the group. Now they still have access a year later.
Oh, yeah.
Fun times.
Exactly. Any other questions? All right. Once again, thank you for that. Leading this awesome group. Up on the whiteboard over here are the next 3 meetings: June 15th from 10 to 11:30, August 9th, and September 21st. You'll notice July's out of there. That's because he's actually taking a vacation.
No. My vacation was the August date. So don't worry about
Never
that.
mind. Never mind. We're
I
good.
just reorganized this around my schedule.
He had to, yeah. You know, that's what happens when you or a new student.
We're actually skipping July for 2 reasons. One is because of the Windows 10 rollout, and this room will be packed constantly with those classes. Matter of fact, I had to finagle with them just to get us the August 9th date. Because we were we're going to be doing it a little bit later in August when I am on vacation.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, they didn't even have us booked in the room for that date either.
Yeah.
So they're kind enough to adjust some stuff, give us the August 9th date. But for July, what you should be expecting is I'm sending out a survey just so that I can get a good awareness of what you guys are interested in doing here. What do you want to learn more about? What are you currently doing out there that might be useful for other people to learn about? The idea that we're going to be moving forward with is not to have me up here lecturing to anyone, because I don't want to do it. You probably get bored with me doing it anyway. But to find examples of the cool things out there, we'll start with some of the stuff that's on that owner guide. Find out what you guys are doing and have you show off the cool stuff that you're doing out there so we all can learn what's going on around the county. Plus, I have a huge interest in learning how the businesses are utilizing these enterprise solutions. I love finding out more about that. So I'll be touching base with you guys to get to know you a little bit better. You can get to know me a little bit better, find out some of the cool stuff you're doing, and maybe eventually have you guys, some of you up at the front of the room talking about things. I'm taking a look at what will be presented in June. I'm talking with a few people, so wait to hear what's going to be going on at that meeting. I still don't know yet.
That's okay. It's usually about 3 weeks. I like to get about 3 weeks out before the meeting. At least get the information out and say, "Did you do it?" And then let everybody know.
So the idea is to have that survey out for the June time, or within June, July timeframe, and be able to parse through that data so that we can start planning the future sessions.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Thank you again. Yeah. All right. And thank you so much.
Yeah.